So Andrew Tate is driving around Dubai in his Paganis, in his Bugattis. He's got his $20 million boat on the way. He's got a $50 million house on the Palm de Jumeirah. And it's just an insane level of wealth beyond a lot of people's comprehension. I want to show you at least 50% of the reason why Andrew Tate is so wealthy. The other 50% is all down to how much he's actually earning and his income. But in this video, I want to address his investment, specifically his crypto investments and how he's sharing what he's doing with crypto in order to get us wealthy as well. In fact, he thinks that we can all have $100 million in Bitcoin. I'm going to break down the math in this exact video. Let's jump straight in. We don't fluff around on this channel, so hit a like if you like not fluffing around. Andrew Tate tweets, I bought my first Bitcoin in 2018. Since then, I've been buying Bitcoin every single week. That's very interesting. A lot of people don't know this. He literally buys Bitcoin every single week. And he's never, ever, not once sold any. Do you understand? And I think, honestly, the answer, even myself, is no. We do not understand how powerful this investment strategy is just yet. I think in 10 years' time, it's going to be so obvious. We're going to look back and be like, damn, I wish I took that guy from Across the Rubicon's video more seriously, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. So it literally pays to stay focused for 8 minutes, because I'm going to explain it to you and allow you to decide if you want to jump into this strategy or do whatever else you want with your money. Tate also says, only the real ones know. I'm a crypto OG who was in Bitcoin at 3K, which lines up with his 2018 entry point, and made $40 million from PancakeSwap. We actually have a video on this channel investigating his PancakeSwap saga and his DeFi on the BNB chain, of which you can go watch if you want, but he made tens of millions of dollars from altcoins. This is, however, the point of this video, because this line, a lot of people have heard before, a lot of people have seen before, but they don't understand how they can take advantage of this fact. Money is not real. They print it from the sky and give it to you for being a good slave, meaning they just literally will turn on the money printer and print endless amounts, trillions of dollars a year of money that you're spending your hard work and energy grinding for in order to swap for something that they can not only print out of thin air, but these days literally conjure up on a computer by just changing a zero on the screen. And not only governments can do this, but banks can also do this too with fractional reserve banking. Andrew Tate says, money is how you track score inside the matrix. It's literally made up numbers. In fact, he retweeted this video, which is actually an interesting video. You can go and watch a minute 27. He says, yes, BTC, and he calls fiat and US dollars one of the largest scams in human history. Again, you may have heard this, but I want you to really pay attention, because I'm going to show you exactly how you can use this scam to your own advantage and escape what Andrew Tate calls the matrix. Have a look at this as well. This was a tweet saying, from Wall Street Mav saying, I'm looking forward to the replies on this one. What's a scam that's so normalized that we don't even realize it's a scam anymore? This is Elon Musk. Kikius Maximus is his current avatar on Twitter. He says fiat currency, US dollars. And you can see this is actually Elon Musk. He's 219 million followers. And this tweet sums it up really well. Imagine working 9 to 5 for 50 years, which so many people go and spend their life doing because they've been indoctrinated thinking that is the way to get free. Then the Fed prints 40% of the total money supply and inflates away 20 years of your work. So if you saved up all your money for that 50 years, the Fed, which they did over COVID, literally went and printed 40% of the money supply, and 20 years of your hard work and dedication literally get diluted into thin air like that, and your savings is not worth what it's worth. And it's sort of tough to track, because if they took 40% of the money out of your bank account, you're going to realize it. But if they increase the price of everything else around your bank account by 40%, which is what they're doing by printing money, that's a more of a silent tax, as Jake Woodhouse describes right here. He says a stealth tax on you, which you're not even factoring in. And it's been this way throughout history in a lot of different forms. And the people who recognize it get monumentally wealthy. Cameron Winklevoss, who was one of the first Facebook guys, the tall twins who were in Harvard rowing club, and apparently sued Mark Zuckerberg because he stole the idea of Facebook off him. They're now big billionaires off of course, Bitcoin. He says the moment the US government purchases one Bitcoin, it'll set off a global arms race, as in a race to get as much Bitcoin as possible. This game theory is going to play out, and whoever's first is going to become the superpower of the world. Andrew Tate says America retains the sole ability to print endless money. Printing into Bitcoin is a no-brainer. So he's saying if the US literally just turns on their money printer and funnels all that money straight into Bitcoin, that is a no-brainer play. Now, this seems kind of crazy if you don't understand the beauty of Bitcoin. Well, have a look at this thing. This is called a stock to flow model. You can read the Bitcoin Standard if you want to know more about the stock to flow ratio. And this is one of probably 300 reasons why Bitcoin is going to be $13 to $20 million a coin in just about 20 years. But this is a stock to flow model. So what is the stock to flow model? The stock to flow model treats Bitcoin as being comparable to commodities and precious metals such as gold, silver, and platinum. They're known as stores of value. Why is gold a store of value? Because you can't print gold as effortlessly as you can print fiat currency, same as all other commodities and precious metals. Because they retain value over long time frames due to their relative scarcity. So they're scarce because they are hard to come by, or there's just not enough of them in numbers. Therefore, the more money you print, the scarce asset gets repriced based on how much money that was printed. And you can see this is a very obvious thing when you look at the government printing 12% a year on average in the US over the last 5 years of the monetary supply, which leads to monetary inflation. Now, I hope you're paying attention here because this is probably the most impactful graph that allows a lot of people to understand the beauty of Bitcoin. Monetary inflation is at 12%. Almost every single asset that you're going to invest into out there, including the S&P 500, which I believe averages about 11%, is going to underperform monetary inflation. Therefore, if you're not in the top US growth stocks, the NASDAQ 100 or Bitcoin, you are going backwards in relative terms to the cost of living. But you'll see refreshingly, Bitcoin not only allows you to exceed monetary inflation, but absolutely crush and conquer it. And Andrew Tate is very bullish on Bitcoin. He says, what's an easy 20x from here? Andrew Tate replies, Bitcoin. This is December. This is when Bitcoin was close to $100,000. So he thinks Bitcoin is going to $2 million plus a year. Now, this, if you haven't seen of it, could change your life. This is the M2 Money Global Index, which is literally a measurement of how much money is being printed all across the world throughout all the governments. And you can see down here, it's in this white line. Now, the fascinating thing is because Bitcoin has a small or a tiny stock to flow ratio, a lot of the money from the assets with high stock to flow ratios, like the US dollar, which can literally be printed out of thin air, as we've discussed, will always flow to the commodity that has a low stock to flow ratio. And Bitcoin currently has the lowest stock to flow ratio, and it's only getting smaller and smaller as the Bitcoin halvings occur and less Bitcoin is being rewarded to the Bitcoin miners. In fact, I think in about 4 or 6 years or something like that, over 99% of all Bitcoin will already have been mined, which means we're all going to be fighting over that last 1%, putting up the price of everyone who's currently holding their Bitcoin. I believe gold currently inflates at about 2% a year, which means gold is going to be leaking 2% of its value per year. Now, you can see the correlation between Bitcoin and this M2 money supply is unreal. It's got something like a 92% correlation over a decent time frame. And you can see right now, China has been printing. The US is yet to turn on their money printer, but they are expected to do it in the back half of this year. And you can see Bitcoin price is likely to follow that. Right now, it's projected at 170,000 if the correlation continues, the 92% correlation that is currently going on. And what this looks like over an even longer time frame, once you zoom out from the months to the years, you can see every single asset out there with a higher stock to flow ratio than Bitcoin will trend to zero against Bitcoin. There's only 21 million Bitcoin, says Sminston Witt. And you can see gold going down compared to Bitcoin, oil down, S&P 500, homes are going down. You can see this is the houses. People think houses are getting more expensive. Well, it's only because you're measuring in a terrible currency with a bad stock to flow ratio where houses might be 250 grand 9 years ago, and now they're 400 grand. Well, in fact, there were 600 Bitcoin and now they're only 4.8. So if you're holding your funds in Bitcoin, you're going to be able to have a way wealthier life compared to every other asset. Even Robert Kiyosaki, the literal go-to financial book of our generation, says, why will gold, silver, and Bitcoin continue to grow in value? The Marxist central bank system is crashing. The biggest scam, according to Elon, according to Andrew Tate. Many going bankrupt. Keep hodling. I'm buying more Bitcoin. I predict Bitcoin will climb to 250K this year. Buy more. Do not sell. Guys, what do all these very wealthy, very well-educated people believe? They believe that Bitcoin is going to the moon. In fact, Dr. Van Nostrand says, perhaps now is a good time to remind everyone we're going to $20 million per coin by 2031. You can see this is the parabolic projection that he has drawn out here. Now, this is an optimistic guess. You've got someone like Michael Saylor, who's got a strategic Bitcoin reserve, estimating about $13 million at base case for the Bitcoin price in the next 20 years. The bear case, $3 million. The bull case, $49 million. I know this says $8 million here, but this is just, I couldn't find the right spot in the video. He's got plenty of video saying $13 million is the base case. Andrew Tate also believes it, so much so that he's following Michael Saylor's strategy, because he owns MicroStrategy, the company, and Andrew Tate is copying. He says, I promised each time MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor's company, buys Bitcoin, I'll buy 1 million USD of Bitcoin. I'm a brokey who can't match his buys because Michael Saylor is buying Bitcoin in the billions. I already have hundreds of M's in Bitcoin, which is far more than I'll ever need. But for the culture, every time he buys, I'll buy $1 million more of Bitcoin. And a lot of people don't actually know Andrew Tate tracks his Bitcoin purchases. He says tatetracker.com, and you can see he's bought $1 million of Bitcoin. Oh, here it is, the cost reported, every time Michael Saylor has made a purchase, which I believe is a brilliant way to do it. He's up 10%. And guys, this is the thing. When you start to make money, you like Andrew Tate's got hundreds of millions of dollars. If Bitcoin goes up 10%, he makes 10, 20, $30 million in a week, which, you know, that'll take people decades to earn that sort of money. So the key here is to start saving in Bitcoin if you believe in the thesis, because it's going to make you really wealthy. And I'll show you a graph on that in just a second. The USA is literally having their own Bitcoin reserve because they think it'll make their country really wealthy. And individual states are also starting to build up their strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's countries in the Middle East, there's countries in Central America, all building up a Bitcoin reserve, just like they used to build up gold reserves 100 years prior. So I want to show you this little tool I've been putting together over the last month or so, which I'm still perfecting, but I can email this to you if you want as well. The link in the description to get this by email. I've got a little email series for you, but I think it's a very handy tool. I want to show you this example. There's a guy called Steven. He's 33 years old, and he's currently got $150,000 in savings. If he adds $40,000 per year to his savings, remember that's after tax, that's after living expenses, so he's spending $110 on tax and living expenses, and can save and pay his future self $40,000. He's a good guy. You know, he's listened to the traditional financial podcast, and he's got 40% of his money in cash, 10% in gold, and 50% in the S&P 500. This means that he's got a 7% average ROI per year. However, with the inflation rate, we'll do this without the inflation rate. Without the inflation of 12% a year, which is the monetary inflation we talked about, you can see Steven will slowly build that 7% up to $20 to $25 million over, let's have a look how many years, 50 years, which is a while. He probably wants to increase his earnings or his return on investment, which I'll show you how to do in just a second. But if you take away the value that's being sucked out of his money through that stealth tax, through that inflation, you can see that Steven, despite making 6 figures a year and saving almost a third of his money, will literally be worth, in today's dollars terms, less than $100,000 in a few decades. He'll literally be going backwards because of monetary inflation. A lot of people do not understand that. However, if you master your money and you can create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, this is factored in at about 25% ROI, which I think Michael Saylor factors in 28 or 29 or 30%. You can see that he's going to be absolutely crushing, saving over hundreds of millions of dollars because he can invest in a superior asset. So if you want to be like Andrew Tate and you want $100 million in Bitcoins based on Tate and Michael Saylor's projections, you are going to need only 7.69 Bitcoin in 20 years. So a lot of people, if you're struggling out there and you don't know what to do financially, literally set the goal of how do you get 7.69 Bitcoin over the next 20 years, and you're going to be worth over $100 million. Although $100 million won't be what it's worth today. It'll probably be closer to having $10 million in today's money. If you want it in 5 years, you need 30 Bitcoin. If you want it in 10 years, you'll need 15 Bitcoin. Final thoughts on this. And by the way, if you want to do your own calculations, put your own salary and savings in, sign up to the Master Your Wealth totally free email list in the link in the description below. And I'll email this out to you as well as some awesome other resources, because we all want the freedom of a lifestyle of being financially free. And it's our responsibility to get there. Otherwise, we're just going to be average forever. Final thoughts here. Andrew Tate says, I'm very concerned his X 100 Bitcoin aren't enough. So he's got 200, 300 Bitcoin. I don't know exactly how much. I can sell $50 million of real world assets to buy more, but why get rich from Bitcoin if you don't buy real world assets? what's the point of buying real world assets when you can hold Bitcoin and you know it will outperform? He says Bitcoin is going to outperform all other real world assets. Truthfully, you need Bitcoin as a buy and forget fund and tons of other money to spend on other things. That way you super win. So he's saying even though Bitcoin might get the highest performance, you don't want to be 100% allocated. Maybe work out your own risk tolerance, 10, 20, 40, 50, 80% allocation based on what you believe your risk tolerance is and how much you want to earn from Bitcoin. This is only possible if you have lots of money, of course. If you're forced to choose either, the fun is gone. If real estate booms in Dubai, Poland, Romania, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Australia, I get richer. If gold booms, he gets richer. If Bitcoin booms, he gets richer. He's investing in all these assets. If the stock market goes up, he gets richer. He's also in the S&P 500. If ETH, Ethereum, or Chainlink boom, both cryptos, he gets richer. If his 76 supercars valued at 110 million US dollars appreciate, he also gets richer. If it all goes to crap, he has more cash to buy in cheaply. It's so easy to get richer once you're rich, which this is the real core of things here. Get rich as soon as possible is what Tate is telling us, because like he said, if you got $100 million and you even just invest that into the S&P 500, you're getting paid $10 million a year in dividends and returns on average. But of course, you've got to out-earn monetary inflation as well. But you say you put that in Bitcoin, you get a 30% return. You're literally earning $30 million in 1 year, while other people are working 10 times, 100 times, infinitely times harder for 100 grand. So it's easier to make money once you have money. Truthfully, once you cross the Rubicon, interesting he's thrown in cross the Rubicon here because that is this name of this channel, it's almost impossible to lose. So a lot of people will drop off this video and be like, that seems really unfeasible. You're talking hundreds of millions, tens of millions. That's not what I'm made for. Totally fine. A lot of people are never going to take that leap into the next chapter. If you are one of the people who know it's possible and know you have it in you, use the link in the description to join our free wealth newsletter. We are building each other up in there, sending you free resources, free tools, free calculators to make sure you're conquering wealth in your own life. So looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.